Hi, everyone. Welcome to this very special edition of the Don Lemon Show. Today, I am so grateful to be chatting with a man who has spent decades at the intersection of politics and climate leadership. Okay. First, as a U.S. congressman, and then as a three-term governor of Washington State, known nationally for making climate change the central issue in his 2020 presidential run. He has positioned Washington as a model for clean energy innovation and environmental policy. Welcome to the show, everyone. Governor Jay Inslee. Thank you so much for
Thanks,
joining.
Don.
How are
Good
you?
to
I
see you.
missed talking to you. Good to see you as well. You look
It's
good.
good to see you. Yes. Well, they have these artificial intelligence screens you can put on your Zoom call now. It makes you look as good as Don Lemon. So it works. Well, not as good as Don Lemon, but 2 years younger at least.
Let's talk some. Thank you, sir. Let's talk some policy, okay? Governor, I want to start by talking about the Republicans' big, beautiful bill. I don't know if you think it's so beautiful, but what do Americans need to know about this legislation?
Well, what I would say is it snatches defeat from the jaws of victory. We are such an upbeat country. We have such innovative skills, such entrepreneurial skills. We are in the midst of transitioning to a cleaner energy economy, which is growing jobs by literally the hundreds of thousands. We're developing new pharmaceuticals that can, cure diseases. We're doing so much in so many realms to advance the cause of the United States, and that's all coming to a screeching halt. Also, we're putting in reverse. America should not drive in reverse, so we're going in reverse on healthcare because they're going to cut literally millions. I've seen the estimate about 9 million people from getting health care. Here we made a big advance on Obamacare. Now we're going to put it in reverse and have millions of people literally without health care, which is just an abomination. We're going reverse on research. I have researchers at the University of Washington. I met a freshman at Harvard, a young woman, the other day during our protest. We protested by walking around on our ferry boats. It was a marine protest. And they cut off her grant. She was doing a grant on this biomechanical way to have a new system to deal with some of our aging problems. They cut off her grant. We have a clean energy revolution going on where we have these companies springing out. We got advanced battery companies, fusion companies, electric charging companies, and all of those grants are being canceled out. And then we have the moral outrage, and it is a moral outrage that we're cutting off help from people who need help, and USAID and people who have been victims of hurricanes and forest fires to deny them relief. So what I'd say is we rightfully should be an optimistic nation, but going in reverse, putting an R, that stands for Republican at the moment. And I can't wait till we get a new Congress.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is that there have been, look, there's always fights, right, and debate
Yep.
back and forth about bills that are being proposed. There's too much fat in there. You guys pork. You're sneaking this in, but this one is quite different. And there have been major disagreements between House Republicans and Senate Republicans over this throughout this reconciliation process. Talk to me about that, and you know. I have usually they are pretty close, but there is a big rift, I would say, between Republicans in the Senate and the Congress over this.
Well, the interesting riff is not whether to blow up the deficit, which it's how much to blow up the deficit. Is it going to be blown up by 1.8 or 3.4?
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to me because this movie is replayed so many times that unfortunately the Republican Party, and I ran for office, God knows how many times, and every time the Republicans said they wanted a constitutional amendment for a balanced budget, right?
Mhm.
They wanted the U.S. Constitution. And as soon as they get into power, they blow up the federal deficit. So the debate that's going on in the Republican Party now is to blow it up by 3 or 4 trillion or 5 or 6 trillion. I'm making up those numbers, but that's the debate. That's not a debate we should be having.
Yeah.
To put additional debt on our children in order to give additional tax cuts to billionaires is what they're doing, and to me that is morally reprehensible. Look, there are times you got to run a deficit, times it makes sense to do that, times of war, times of when you need stimulus. But this is not a moment just to finance their friends' giant tax cuts, particularly with the huge economic inequality that we have today. So that debate is an unfortunate one. Now, the other debate is how fast to go in reverse on clean energy. Last week we were sweltering under the heats and half the country. We have a climate change disaster that is causing forest fires. We have a solution to this problem, which is clean energy. And now this reconciliation bill is going to cancel the tax cuts that are growing these businesses and giving Americans cheaper energy. So before this Congress showed up, we were getting cheaper energy in solar and wind, which is cheaper in 90% than coal across the country right now. We were reducing our carbon emissions that can reduce forest fires and hurricanes. And now they're gonna destroy that. The question is, do they destroy it 100% or only 95%? That's the debate we're having.
Yeah.
So those are debates on the margins of how much damage to do, and that's not a healthy debate. So I can't wait till we get a House of Representatives who can stop this madness.
It's interesting to me always, and it shouldn't be surprising, but interesting, I guess, is the right word. Many of the GOP lawmakers who support this bill come from areas that stand to lose the most. So folks are voting against their own interest, correct?
Well, they're voting against their citizens' interests,
Own interest,
maybe
yeah.
not against their interests, because they can
Right.
continue to take millions of dollars of benefit from the fossil fuel industry that likes the status quo. The oil guys don't want to compete. The coal guys don't want to compete against solar and wind because solar and wind is cheaper. But yes, something like 70-80% of these projects that are being built happen to be in red districts. And people are just rolling through that and ignoring that because they're more interested in their alliance with the fossil fuel lobbyists than they are with their constituents. And these are tens of thousands of jobs. There is an analysis done by a group called Climate Power, which have found that we've already lost 90,000 jobs because of threatening these measures. And these are good paying jobs, and they're real jobs. Over in Central Washington area, I used to represent in Congress. We have two of the most advanced battery companies in the world, and they got started because of some small federal investments that I helped promote back in 2008 or 2010. Now these people are putting iron workers to work, electrical, IBEW members to work, laborers to work, and some scientists. And to see those great jobs going away for no reason is very, very painful. And it is going to happen predominantly in red districts. But there is a message here, if I can, Don, just for a moment, because we've talked a lot about the job loss occasioned by their destroying this program. The more immediate and universal damage is to our electrical bills. Because right now, Trump and his allies in Congress are taking away cheaper electricity because the cheapest electricity is now renewable energy, advanced batteries, solar, wind, efficiency, heat pumps. And he's taking away all of those benefits. It's been estimated that means $350, $400 increases in utility bills a year because he's shackling us with more expensive electricity. So even if you don't have a family that kid might get a job in these new industries, everybody's using electricity. And those electrical bills are going to go up. And this is so kind of brain dead, at least in my view, because Trump said he wanted to dominate energy, but he's taken away domestic energy. This is domestic energy that we're producing in the United States. We put up the American flag in front of every solar farm and every wind farm and every heat pump.
But nothing seems to make sense when it comes. I mean, look, what makes sense when it comes to this administration?
Well, we can continue to expose the damage it's going to do. And that's important itself. I know many people have asked, what can I do? Well, the only thing you can do wrong is to do nothing. Everything counts to expose the damage they're doing. The millions of people who were marching last weekend, the people who are expressing themselves around the water coolers, the people who talk to their cranky uncles at dinner about these matters. All of that has an impact because in November 2026, at least at the moment, we're going to have another election. And at that moment, we will have an opportunity to restore some sanity to the U.S. House of Representatives. And at the moment, there's a really good chance that that's going to happen. So the ability of people to bring a little relief to America in November 2026 starts today. And people can talk about this. They can tweet, they can email, they can text, they can carrier pigeon. All of that has an impact. Now, we may not get immediate gratification, but that's how democracy works. And thank goodness people are doing that. The animal instincts of people who don't like this are really coming to the fore. People were in shock for a few months. It was really interesting. People just kind of got into a fetal position, but they're
Yeah.
getting up on their hind legs now. And that
Yeah.
has an impact. And believe me, things can change very rapidly. I've gone through 2 landslide elections during my 3 decades. So, the Republicans might be in some big trouble come November 2026.
The who may be in real
The
trouble?
Republicans may be in
The
big
Republicans.
trouble in November 2026. If I was a
One
betting person right now, I would suggest that there's a lot of Republican members of the House of Representatives should be looking for a beach to retire to. So if I was a betting
cheers to
person, that's
that.
what I'd say.
Mm. But it does seem, Governor, that this bill kind of represents a larger trend in the GOP, and that is where Republicans now prioritize their loyalty or fealty to Trump, right, over the real needs of their constituents. So, how do Democrats get that point across to voters, so that, as you say, these Republicans in the Congress are looking for a beach to retire on in 2026?
The Republicans put a giant target on their back in passing a reconciliation bill. And that target is a target because it has offended the most critical things in people's lives by the millions across the United States. Nothing could be more odious, more damaging, more personally assaulting than denying Americans health care, women with breast cancer, men with whatever. And they've denied 9 million people health care. Nothing could be more morally reprehensible than doing that. Second, they've cost thousands of jobs by denying clean energy jobs. Third, they've raised the price of electricity for almost every single American, sometimes by hundreds of dollars a year, because they have taken away from Americans these very, very cost-effective measures of clean energy. And they have sold out sort of just average working people's interests in favor of the wealthiest friends in America. Now, maybe there's some times for deficit spending, but to blow up the federal deficit, to put trillions of dollars of additional debt on our children, simply to give their rich billionaire friends more tax cuts, that is not defensible. So they don't have one target on their backs. They got 5 or 6 targets on their backs. And that's only voting. I'm only speaking metaphorically at the moment. Clearly, we got enough violence in our society already. But they are going to be targets of a lot of anger come November 2026, and that is righteous anger, and it can start right now. So I think there's a reason a lot of those folks are going to be looking at an early retirement.
Support for the Don Lemon Show comes from 120 Life. Did you know that high blood pressure is the #1 risk factor for mortality? 1 in 2 adults has it, and that's a 50-50 chance you're a walking time bomb. Truly. And as with many families, there's a history of high blood pressure in my own family. My mother has it, my grandmother had it, and so did my sister. It was one of the reasons she was in such poor health. My dad also had diabetes. But here's the good news. You can take control of your blood pressure naturally without relying on Big Pharma. 120 Life is a blend of great tasting superfruit juices that have been shown to actually help lower your blood pressure. It is not just for high blood pressure though. It's also beneficial for other health conditions like diabetes. 120 Life is trusted by healthcare professionals with hundreds of doctors recommending it to help manage blood pressure naturally. It provides visible, measurable changes in blood pressure. You can use a simple monitor at home to track your progress. For a limited time, try 120 Life and save 20% off. Just use the code DON at checkout at 120life.com. 120 Life offers a risk-free trial with a full refund if you don't see lower numbers in 2 weeks. So go to 120life.com and use the code DON to save 20%. There's nothing to lose except your high blood pressure numbers. Go to 120life.com and use the code DON to save 20% off. Remember, you must use the code DON to get this special offer. This is serious. This is your life we're talking about. 120 Life can help. Support comes from the Freedom from Religion Foundation. It's summer, campfires, late night conversations, people swapping stories. But lately, one group is trying to control the whole story, claiming that the U.S. was founded as a Christian nation and pushing their religion into classrooms, into courtrooms, and even your doctor's office. In Arizona, voters just protected abortion rights in the state constitution, but politicians are trying to undermine it anyway. So Texas is pushing bills to force the Ten Commandments into every public school classroom. Seriously. And in Congress, a bill just passed to strip Medicaid coverage for gender-affirming care for all ages. This isn't about personal beliefs. It's about power. And it's all happening under the banner of Christian nationalism. That's where the Freedom from Religion Foundation comes in. They've been defending church-state separation since 1978 in the courts, in the schools, and wherever religion tries to take the wheel. If you believe government should serve everyone, not just the religious right, then join them. Go to ffrf.us/freedom or text my name, Don, to 511-511 and become a member today. Join us and go to ffrf.us/freedom or text Don to 511-511 now. Because the only story that should run this country is ours, not theirs. Tax fees may apply. Why is it in 2025, in the year of our Lord 2025, Republicans still seem not to believe in climate change? Why don't they believe in science? Why don't they think that there's something horrible happening to the earth that needs to be fixed?
Very complex answer to that question. It's a very important question. I spent a long time thinking about it. It is several things. Number one, actually, even predominantly at the moment, and I'm really sad to say this because the nation is better with two stalwart parties of integrity. We don't have that right now. We've got one party, political party, and we have one cult. And that cult is the cult of Donald Trump. And the Republican elected officials bow down to him and kiss his ring every morning before they have breakfast. And they have a total unwillingness to stand up against him. And he is a climate denier. Something must have happened to him as a youth that a wind turbine scared him when he was 5 years old and he's never got over it. And he goes around saying they cause cancer, and instead they cause jobs and cheap electricity. So it is a cult, number one. And whatever Donald Trump says goes, and that's simply the situation. And that's very unhealthy to have any one person have that control over a large political party. That's number one. Number two, it's really interesting. The Republicans who have denied the presence of climate change, I think it's based on fear. And the reason I say that is these are folk who, have had some success in life. There have been people who've been successful doctors or lawyers or business executives, and then they go to Congress. But they have a fear, and their fear is that we cannot solve this problem. They're afraid that we can't figure out how to heat our homes without coal power. They're afraid that solar energy can't be distributed. This is fearfulness by them. My side of the equation is confident we can do these things because we are doing these things. We're getting heat pumps in people's homes. We're getting solar and wind power in my state that's going like crazy. We're getting cheaper electricity because of this. We're getting more insulation in our homes. And by the way, these are popular programs. We just my Climate Commitment Act here in Washington State. It's the most aggressive climate bill in the United States. The fossil fuel guys, millionaires, tried to repeal it. Went to the ballot. We won 62 to 38. It was a landslide in our favor because Washingtonians are not fearful. We do understand we can solve this problem. And third, that it's an economic benefit by both jobs and cheaper electricity. So I would say it's the power of a cult and the power of fear that has captured the minds of Republicans. And it's a very sad thing. This should not be a partisan issue. Republicans and Democrats are both sweating like crazy last week during this heat storm, this heat dome. It's Republicans and Democrats that are getting literally their homes burned down by the thousands across the United States. I've had two whole towns burned down while I was governor. And then Donald Trump, first off, he wouldn't do anything about climate change that caused more forest fires. And then when they happen, he wouldn't give us disaster assistance because he was mad at me. So it's really sad that we only have one party fighting this right now. But until things changes, that's the cards we're dealt.
Well, let me ask you then, because let's talk about FEMA, because you said he wouldn't give you any disaster assistance. What do you make of his cuts to FEMA? Why is he doing that?
That is a real hard one to understand because if he's ever seen what I've seen, I go to these fire scenes and you see the devastation on people's faces when their homes have been burned down or they've lost their life. I always harken back. I was in Wenatchee, Washington, when this big fire broke out and hit this suburban area, burned down, I don't know, 50, 60 homes. Seeing this couple standing, they were literally standing in the ashes of their home and they were just hugging each other and crying, just physically supporting each other. And most humans, when you see something like that, you want to help people. It's a natural instinct to wrap your arms around them and help them out with food and clothes and shelter, healthcare. It's like a natural instinct. I actually don't know anybody who would personally deny that couple assistance. I really don't know anybody who would do that. But here we have a president of the United States who has a lust to deny these people help. And it's very difficult to understand. It comes again from just a hatred of anything involving public service. He believes that people who are firefighters and aid workers are losers. That's how he looks at life, that if you're helping people, you're a loser. And I don't know how else to understand it. The Musk Doge cuts have just been cut through so many people that help people and give people more assistance. And I've seen it personally. I'm talking to a guy whose son was working trying to prevent mass starvation in Sudan. He's now seeing thousands of people dropping dead at his feet. This young man who's had a career in USAID, who now is cut off and can't help these people. We have town people who now can't get assistance. He denied assistance to this last town that burned down. Whole town burned down. In fact, the fire engine burned down. The fire was moving so fast. I asked for assistance. He denied it. And the reason, in fact, he even told the Republican congressperson from that district, the reason he did it was just out of pique, because he didn't like me, because I didn't kiss his ring enough. And so, yes, it's difficult to understand why a person would be callously indifferent to the suffering of others. But that's the situation. And hopefully there'll be some books written about this sociopath in the White House. Hope it never happens again.
Yeah, there were so much concern about Joe Biden's cognitive decline or abilities or mental, whatever it is. But this, you're right. Let's hope someone writes about that. Support for the Don Lemon Show today comes from Brickhouse Nutrition. Guys, you should go big on this sale and get stocked up on the best supplements from Brickhouse Nutrition. Their July 4th sale is on, and for a limited time, you could save 25% off everything with the code word Fireworks25. That includes Lean, their #1 selling weight loss supplement. No injections, just real results from studied natural ingredients. It's a great time to slim down for summer. Or you can try Field of Greens. It is the superfruit and vegetable drink that literally promises your doctor will notice your improved health or your money back. See, it's risk-free. So Field of Greens, by the way, happens to be my personal favorite. It is all natural and I get all the nutrition I need from a bunch of different vegetables and fruits. Literally, everything from Brickhouse Nutrition is incredible, and I hear listeners rave about their collagen peptides, and beauty experts swear that collagen is the fountain of youth for your skin and hair. So guys, let's go. Let's get stocked up on their incredible supplements, okay? Go to brickhousenutrition.com and use the code word Fireworks25 for 25% off. This sale's only on for a few days, and I know these products are going to sell out, okay? So that's brickhousenutrition.com, brickhousenutrition.com. So looking ahead, if you said 2026, you believe that during the midterms that Republicans are going to be in trouble. Let's look ahead, 2026, 2028. Do you have any recommendations for the Democratic Party? Who do you see as future leaders there?
My recommendation is to be active, to be vocal, find candidates that you believe in, and then go fight like heck to get him elected. And I will tell you, I think we got a lot of talent ready to step up to the plate. A lot of different personalities, a lot of different stories, a lot of different narratives, and a lot of personal talent. I know most of the candidates whose name have been mentioned potentially be president, and virtually all of them have really pretty amazing talent levels, just on the ability to connect with people, to communicate, to create a vision. So I'm actually confident we're going to have a good candidate in the next one. But don't wait for presidential race. Look, these congressional races are where the game is right now. Go find a congressional candidate, even if they're not in your town. Spend a couple weeks in Michigan, Arizona 6. We got a guy who's going to vote to kill hundreds of jobs in his district down there in Arizona. Same thing with races in Michigan and other places. Find a congressional candidate. Go spend a few days helping them out, because that talent counts right now, and it could be a narrow margin in the House of Representatives. So this is a great use of your talent and your passion, and I hope people will be active. We need it.
Well, look, I know we miss you being governor. And how does it feel right now, just sitting sort of, not that you are actively just sitting and watching, but you're in a different position now. What is that like?
Well, I'm not done with this fight. I'm not in public office, but I'm a citizen of the United States and the state of Washington, and I'm using my time and my juice to fight these battles. I'm working with a group called Climate Power that does communication about how terrible the climate crisis is and how great the clean energy revolution is. I'm working to try to create a system to help people who have lost their homes in forest fires when they're not getting help the federal government. And I'm helping some businesses who are starting new clean energy companies that can do really whiz bang technologies and put people to work. So I'm still in this fight.
But it's got to be frustrating when you look at what's happening in Washington.
I try not to focus on frustration. I try to focus every morning on what I can do. And if we all get up in the morning and say, what can I do in this fight? We're going to be okay. And it's going to be difficult times, but we are going to get through this. We're going to be delayed in our progress, but we will not be denied. I think it's a moment to hearken back to what Martin Luther King said. He said the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends to justice. And we always focus on the bend to justice. I think it's important to recognize when he said it's long. It is long. Yeah. We're in a very long part of that process of the arc right now. And we're all feeling that, how tough it is. But it's going to bend, and we're going to bend it. And I encourage people to get out there and bend it right now.
Yeah. Well, you're doing it. You're helping. Even though you're not governor, you're still making a difference. And we appreciate what you do for the world, and we appreciate you appearing on the Don Lemon Show.
It's the highlight of my week. I'll tell you that.
Thank you. Be well, sir.
Thanks, Donnie. Go get him.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never, ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support, and we will see you next time.